Well, hey there everybody, I'm Abby from Abbi Kirsten Collections, and today we're talking all about smart materials. So Cricut has developed a whole line of smart materials, which is the ability to cut on a Cricut Maker 3 or the Explorer 3 without the use of a cutting mat. So all other machines do require a cutting mat, but you can use the Maker 3 or the Explorer 3 without a cutting mat, and you can still use the cutting mat with the newer machines as well. So you'll be able to use it or not use it according to what material you're cutting out. In order to not use the mat though, you will need to have the smart materials that are created by the Cricut brand. They've created things like Smart Iron-On, Smart Permanent Vinyl, Smart Removable Vinyl, a whole other varieties of vinyl types, and even Smart Cardstock, and I'm sure they are going to come out with many more materials in the future. It's a really fabulous way to eliminate an extra step in the process of having to load and unload a mat and remove your materials and all of that. It kind of helps speed the process up in general. So I'm going to be featuring the new machines today, particularly the Maker 3, but the Explorer 3 also works with the smart materials as well. One of the things with the smart materials that a lot of people noticed when the Cricut Joy came out that works with the smart materials is that it can be a little harder with vinyl in particular to transfer it onto transfer tape. So I'm going to give you my hacks and tips for getting that process and getting through that process today so that you can do it without too much frustration. In this particular craft today, I am going to be creating some phrases for my new laundry room. So my husband and I just redid our laundry room. If you've followed our home renovation journey at all, we have posted things about that from time to time. But we just renovated our new laundry room, and we also got a new washer and dryer. So on top of our washer and dryer, I plan on putting the phrase, sometimes I think about throwing in the towel, but then I remember how much laundry I have. So we're going to be cutting those out here on Smart Removable Vinyl. So I'm going to be walking you through the process of that. So go ahead, grab your materials, and let's get started with this craft. And if you guys have any questions or you would like this file for yourself, go ahead and download it below the video.
Alright, so I am ready to load my smart material. Now this is completely optional, but this here is a vinyl roll holder, and what it does is it holds your vinyl for you while it's cutting, but it also allows you to trim right where the cut of your material is going to stop so that you can eliminate wasted material and you're not dealing with a lot of wasted vinyl. So I'm just going to feature this in the video, but you can absolutely do this without this. It's completely optional, so just know that. If you do want to purchase this, then the way you would add it to your Cricut Maker 3 or your Cricut Explorer 3, it only works with those two machines right now, is you'll see these little grooves under here, and then you'll see these little grooves right here, and you'll just want to slide them on to your machine. And what this does is it makes sure it's perfectly aligned, and it also keeps it from shifting on you. So that's really important. So here I have my smart vinyl. You can do this with smart removable, smart permanent, iron-on, any of those materials can sit in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up my smart material here. And then what you wanna do is you're gonna wanna feed the smart material underneath the lip here. So you set it right in here, and then you're gonna feed it underneath, just like that, and it's gonna come through the other end. So you'll have your cut, of course, already set up in Design Space, ready to go. So once you've done that, make sure that you select the correct material in Design Space. So for me, this is Smart Vinyl Removable. If you're using a different type, make sure you select that material. And then the double arrow button here will start flashing when it's ready to receive your material. When we push this in, it's going to measure the material first. So that's what it's going to do to check to make sure that there is enough material for the cut. Make sure you're placing your material underneath these little white notches here, these little guides, and that's going to keep it exactly where it needs to be. So feed this in. It can get a little bit tricky, it gets caught in that little lip there sometimes. So just feed that down in underneath those white guides and push it against the rollers, and then press the double arrow button. There we go. It's going to start with just, again, feeding the material through to measure the length and make sure there's enough for the cut. Once it's done measuring the material, you can go ahead and hit the go button. This before looked like the Cricut icon. Now it's been replaced by a play icon. They both do exactly the same thing. It just means you're going to press that to proceed with the cut. Once again, if you don't have this, you can still do all of this exactly the same. You just won't be having your vinyl sit in the holder. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the play button, or the go button is what I like to call it usually. Now the first time I tried the Maker 3 and the Explorer 3 from the other machines. The speed actually sort of scared me a little bit, because if you've owned a previous model of machines, you'll know that this is significantly faster. So the speed almost takes you by surprise, but just know that this is normal. The Maker 3 and the Explorer 3 are significantly faster machines than the original Maker and the Explorer 2. So just be aware of that. All right, once your material is done cutting, the arrow button will start flashing again, and that will mean that you can remove your material. Now, before you remove it, I recommend sliding your trimmer right down here. This is what's going to cut it, which is your blade. So I like to slide it to trim it off, and then that way I can know that my material and my cut are separated at the right point before I remove anything. So I'm just gonna trim that, and then it's gonna lift away just like this. And you can save this, so this is all of our extra material. And then I'm gonna slide this off, just like this, and take it to the side. And now we can go ahead and unload our material. So I'm pressing that double arrow button, and I have unloaded my cut. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim off the excess here of the Smart material. Don't need all that. All right, so now it is time to weed. So weeding and transferring Smart Vinyl, permanent or removable, it's a little bit different than with more traditional vinyls that you may use when you're cutting strictly on a mat. The reason being is the backing is so much thicker so that we can cut without a mat, and that just means that there's a few extra tips you'll need to know when going through the process. So anytime I start weeding my vinyl, I always start up at that top corner there. I do find with Smart Vinyl that removing it initially actually is a little bit easier. And then you just want to go real slow. So notice here, I'm losing some of my pieces. So if that happens to you, you need to go slow. You need to press it back down so that it stays down. This little dot is being very stubborn. There we go. So is this little dot. All right, so it's very important that you just go slow. You're looking at what you're pulling up there. It can also be very helpful. Make sure when you're doing this, you're not pulling up, you're pulling almost at a 90-degree angle, as much to a 90-degree angle as you possibly can. And then here, if you have a really long design, you're gonna wanna trim this at some point, because it's gonna end up sticking to the rest of your design and it's not gonna help you. So I trim that off when I get about halfway, and you can do that as often as you need. All right, once you get to the end, I always like to read it and make sure I'm not missing anything important before I crumple this up and throw it away. Because if you are missing it, you can go back in and you can grab it and stick it back on before you peel this completely off and throw it away. So I can see that everything that I need is there, and we just need to go in and weed the rest of our letters here. So I'm gonna grab my weeding tool, and you can use a nail polish holder for your finger, or you can use a little berry weeder like this and stick it to your desk. Those are really handy for collecting scraps. So what I have here is I have my transfer tape, and I'm going to cut enough that I can transfer this whole thing. Once you get your transfer tape up, just hold it taut and then lay it right down. Really burnish well over the letters back and forth. Try to get out as many air bubbles as you can, especially around the actual letters themselves, so that it's making good contact with your design instead of just there being an air bubble there and it's not sticking to anything. So a lot of people stop with just burnishing on the front. It's very important to always flip your design over and burnish on the back as well. All right, so once you have burnished the front and the back, then a lot of people think that you need to peel the transfer tape away this way. It's always important to peel the liner away from the transfer tape. So always have it face down, and you will stand a much better chance of good results that way. So I peel the top corner here. Now if at any point in time something is not sticking to the tape, as you can see here, mine is lifting up, what you want to do is right when you come to that section, you want to crease it and then roll away. Crease, roll away. See here, one of my dots is sticking up. I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna crease, push down, and roll away. And you'll just do that until you work it all the way onto the transfer tape. Because Smart Materials here, they have a much thicker liner. It can be harder to get them to release from the design. So that's where creasing and rolling back here really helps. So I like to crease and roll. And with anything with vinyl, go nice and slow. And for my particular project, I'm placing these onto my washer and dryer, so I added the white onto my washer here. And I've successfully transferred everything onto that transfer tape. I'm just lining it up and placing it down. I'll smooth it out initially, and then I'll grab my Cricut scraper and I'll start burnishing the design. So just make sure you're going over each letter and you're burnishing it very well before you go to lift up the transfer tape. Then starting at the top corner, I peel the transfer tape back. With your transfer tape, make sure you're peeling it straight back, almost at a 90-degree angle. You don't want to be pulling it up, you want to be pulling it back. So it's really important to pull back, not to pull up, so that you're not lifting the design you're trying to transfer. And I repeated that on my dryer as well with the black lettering, and I transferred that using my transfer tape and burnishing it well, and then pulled the liner straight back. It's just really important you go straight back so that you don't lift those letters up. And that is exactly how I would use a smart vinyl for a project similar to this. You could do this on signs, you could do this on cups. There's many different ways you can use removable or permanent smart vinyl. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know your thoughts and comments, or if you have any other questions. I would love to be able to help you. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.